Today on 5 Killer Riffs, we're going to look at one of my favorite bands of all time, and in my opinion, one of the most criminally underrated guitar players, Mr. Criss Oliva. So the classic era of SAVATAGE was based around the vocals of John Oliva and the amazing guitar playing of Criss Oliva. A great riff writer, a really fluid, melodic lead guitar style. He kind of built on the style of guys like Randy Rhoads and Michael Schenker. And for the time, he had this really big, thick guitar sound. There's a bunch of their songs that are in drop tunings. And he also just had soul in his playing. You know, there's no two ways about it. He was not just a heavy metal shredder. The guy had some amazing bluesy, soulful chops to go in there as well. To get the ball rolling, we're going to have a look at a riff from their 1985 album, The Power of the Night. Or I think it might just be Power of the Night. This is just a classic slab of true metal. And I think the thing that's really interesting about it is that it's in drop C tuning, which was kind of unprecedented for the time. I think it's a great sounding metal record from that era as well, produced by Max Norman, who went on to work with Megadeth, amongst others. Here's the riff for Power of the Night. The next riff that we're going to have a look at kind of builds on that approach of Power on the Night, but instead of it being in a natural minor key, we're using the C Phrygian scale, super dark sounding. It's the riff from the song Hall of the Mountain King. This, I think, out of the real metal albums that SAVATAGE did, is easily my favorite. There's songs like Strange Wings and 24 Hours Ago and Price to Pay. It's a really, really great sort of mid to late 80s metal album. I would highly recommend checking it out if you're into hard rock, classic metal, thrash. They just kind of tick all the boxes. But here's the riff from that album for Hall of the Mountain King. On the next album, SAVATAGE sort of started to move away from that classic metal style and move closer to what I would call a Broadway metal style that they very much made their own with their next album, Streets. But the title track from Ballet, I think, is killer, and you can really start to see the seeds of what Trans-Siberian Orchestra would eventually become. So let's check out the section that happens after the main chorus and before the solo in the song Ballet. I just love the way this is arranged. And, you know, the first time I heard this, it was one of those moments as a kid where I was just doing this, you know. It just really pumps you up. And I'm also going to have a really shoddy attempt at playing the solo from this song. SAVATAGE really picked up the ball and ran with that whole Broadway metal thing on their next album, Streets. This is one of my favorite concept albums of all time. If you're a fan of Operation Mindcrime, and if you're a fan of Tommy and Quadrophenia, and you're a fan of Billy Joel and Elton John, and you're a fan of Metallica, you're going to find something that you love about this album. It is such a unique mix of a storyline blended together with piano ballads, blended together with this just fierce, visceral metal style. And this is the riff from the song Jesus Saves. We're back in standard tuning. Again, this is kind of like an E Phrygian dominant thing. You can kind of see the influence of like Rainbow's Gates of Babylon in the start of this riff, in my opinion. And the whole production on the album is just really fantastic. There's some really great songs and some great lyrics. It is well worth sitting down and really soaking in this album in one sitting, almost the way you would watch a theater show or a movie. So here's the riff from Jesus Saves. Really groovy, really signature Criss Oliva guitar part. To round things out, let's check out the riff from Edge of Thorns. This is the very first SAVATAGE song that I ever heard, and it was literally a life-changing moment for me. I had never heard rock music with this kind of, depth and poise about it, and really deep lyrics that you could kind of sit there and analyze and listen to. And I think after I heard this song for the first time, I put it on repeat about 20 times because I just never heard anything like this. And Criss's solo on this song in particular, I think, is just stunning. The way the riffs are laid out, the singing Zach Stevens took over from John Oliva on lead vocals, and I absolutely love his voice. It's such a great mix of that kind of operatic, grandiose power, and again, a real soul to the music. So this is my really awful attempt at playing Edge of Thorns by SAVATAGE. So there's 5 killer riffs. If you're a big time fan, you're no doubt sitting there going, why didn't he do 24 Hours Ago? Why didn't he do Ghosts in the Ruins? Why didn't he do She's in Love? Or something like that. SAVATAGE are one of those bands where nearly every riff is a killer riff, but I wanted this video to sort of be a primer for people who may not be too familiar with their music. Like I said earlier, they had this great eclectic blend of styles, whether it was sort of like Billy Joel, Elton John piano ballads, or, Metallica, Megadeth style thrash metal, or really dark sounding groovy heavy metal. They kind of just put it all into one blending pot, and John had this really unique voice, and Criss had this, like I said, a great soulful shred style. Now, he was tragically killed in a car wreck with a drunk driver 6 months after the release of Edge of Thorns, and the rest of the band carried on. They had Alex Skolnick come in and play guitar on the album Handful of Rain, which has the absolutely epic song Chance on it, and then they went and did some more concept albums. Now, the album Dead Winter Dead, about the Balkans War, has this song called Sarajevo 1224, which is essentially a heavy metal version of Carol of the Bells, and that song kind of sparked what became Trans-Siberian Orchestra, who is this massive arena show who played both coasts of the United States at Christmas, and they have these Christmas-themed concept albums. Paul O'Neill, the longtime producer of SAVATAGE, that was kind of his pet project, Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Great players, just an amazing show. If you can see it, get out and see it. And it's great to see the music of SAVATAGE and Criss Oliva live on. They're a band which I think needs to be championed in this internet age. Criss really deserves to be mentioned, you know, alongside guys like George Lynch and Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen, all those great players from that era. So if you've never heard SAVATAGE before, hopefully this video really inspires you to go check them out. And if you're a big-time SAVATAGE fan, let me know what your favorite SAVATAGE songs and riffs are in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay excellent and be good to one another. I'll see you all really soon.